Hey everyone, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So last week in class you learned how to do a confidence interval for the mean, and I'm not going to teach you any new material on this lesson. What I'm going to do is demonstrate how to use StatCrunch to do confidence intervals, and then for your questions on the lesson you're going to be using StatCrunch on the Math 105 data. So I'm going to just show you how to use StatCrunch. Here we have a question. We want to calculate a confidence interval. And I could use my calculator first. So I'll show you how to do that just to refresh your memory. It's a confidence interval for the mean. And it's different from a proportion. I'm dealing with X bar. I see the word, maybe I see the word mean in the problem. Yeah, I do see the word mean. So that's a clue that we're dealing with a confidence interval for the mean. So I go to tests, and then I go down to t-interval. And when you're given summary statistics like this, rather than the data, you want to just scroll to stats, hit enter, and then you enter the information. So you want to enter your X bar, which is 4. You want to enter your standard deviation, which is 6.6. Your N is 61. And then we want a 98% confidence level. And so then I just go down and hit calculate. Okay, so there's my confidence interval for the mean. And that's easy enough, but I'm going to show you that it's just as easy to do on StatCrunch as well. So this way, if you don't have a calculator, you can use StatCrunch. And so StatCrunch link is right here, and I just want to go to the website. And right now, I'm just going to open StatCrunch. And you might have to download Java. If you can't get it to open, down here on the right, it's a little bit out of your screen. I'll just move it over, I guess. It says open in new StatCrunch. That works really well if you're having trouble opening StatCrunch on your computer. But to calculate that confidence interval, I go to Stat, T Statistics, one sample, and then for now I have summary data. So I'm going to hit summary. And all I have to do is enter that same information in this box. So I have a sample mean of 4, a standard deviation of 6.6, and a sample size of 61. And then I do want to hit next and just confidence interval. Hypothesis test we're going to do at a later date. And this was a 98%. And so I just check confidence interval, change the level to whatever I want, and then I hit calculate. And it gives me the sample mean, standard error, and right here is your confidence interval. So you have the lower limit and the upper limit for your confidence interval. Okay, so you might not have thought that was easier than your using your calculator, but let's go do another problem where I actually have data rather than summary statistics. So here's a set of data. I want to calculate a confidence interval for this set. Again, I could enter this on the calculator, and it doesn't take that long, but it's actually quicker if I click on this little box right here, and then it'll say open in StatCrunch. So what that will do is it will open up the data in StatCrunch, and there's no entering of data. So there's no mistake I can make when I enter the data. Here's the data, and now I can calculate a confidence interval based on that. And so instead of with summary now, I actually have data. And all I need to do is put that variable into the box. Again, I have to click next. And I didn't see if it was a 95, but we'll just calculate a 95. And so I hit calculate. Again, here's the lower limit. So my confidence interval goes from 0.822 up to 1.264. The sample mean and standard deviation. Okay, and I'll just do one more for you. Here's another set of data right here. And again, I could put it in the calculator, but that takes a few minutes. The quickest thing to do is just click on the box here and open it in StatCrunch. It appears in StatCrunch. I go to Stat, T-statistic, one sample with data. Okay, that will always do a one sample mean. I put the variable in the box. Then I have to remember to click next, otherwise it will do a hypothesis test, which we haven't gotten to. We want to do a confidence interval. And then calculate. Okay, so it really couldn't be any easier. In StatCrunch, it's actually easier than using your calculator because it enters the data for you. So you'll have a few questions like that on the homework. In fact, this is the homework. And if you go to a different problem, it says we're going to be using the Math 105 survey data to answer questions 5, 6, and 7. So 5, 6, and 7, all I'm having you do is calculate confidence intervals, but I'm using the Math 105 survey data. So if you used this before, but if you forget, what you want to do is go to StatCrunch, go to the website, and then we want to find the Math 105 survey data. Now you can always save it and open it in My Data after you save it. If I click My Data, I can actually find that data set. But before you save it, you have to find it. It's in StatCrunch, so you go to Explore, then you go to Data, and then you want to search Math 105. So if you type in Math 105 just like this, and hit search, the only thing that's going to pop up is the data set that we want, and that's this data set right here, and you just want to click on it. Okay, so here's the data set from that survey that you took quite a while ago. We have a number of different variables. The ones that we'll be working with on the homework, I think, is sleep. Phone.hours is the number of hours people talk or text on the phone. And I don't know, maximum speed, I think that was the other one. So I'm going to just show you how to do a confidence interval. It's done the same way. You go to T-statistics, one sample with data. Whenever you have a data set, you're going to be doing with data. And then let's put study, number of hours studied per week in there, and I can hit calculate. And there's my confidence. Oops, actually, I forgot to do confidence interval. I did hypothesis test. So when you make a mistake like that or you want to change something, you can just go to edit. And I forgot to click next. So the default is hypothesis test. We want confidence interval. The 95% is the default, and I just hit calculate. Okay, so there's my confidence interval. The number of hours students study on a typical week would be between 11.7 and 12.4 on average. These are Math 105 students. Another thing that I could do, and that you'll have to do on the homework, is you want to compare different groups. And to do that, I start out the same way. I'm going to do a one sample confidence interval. And let's go and look at intelligence. So this was when you were asked to rate your intelligence on a 1 through 10 scale. Suppose I wanted to compare gender. And we did this on the previous assignment. If you want to compare groups, you do this group by, and then you do gender. And again, I need to hit, do confidence interval rather than hypothesis test, and then I hit calculate. And so now what I have are separate confidence intervals for females and males. So the average female intelligence was 6.7 up to 6.8. That's the confidence interval for the average female intelligence, and the males was slightly higher, so 7 up to 7.24. So what we look when we're comparing groups, we look to see if these confidence intervals overlap. This starts at 6.7, goes to 6.8, and this starts at 7.1 and goes to 7.2. And so these confidence intervals don't overlap, so it looks like males consider themselves more intelligent than females. Okay, so that's it. With this video, you should be able to finish the assignment or the lesson. If you're having any difficulty with StatCrunch, feel free to send me an email or stop by my office hours.